Hello everybody, and thanks for joining me today. We will dive right in, but I want to have just a brief little discussion on a phenomenon known as compensation in your body. And so compensation is just the tendency your body has, if there's a weakness somewhere, that the stronger, closest muscle or joint will pick up the slack. Basically, that's all it is. And it's just really designed to assist you so that you can get the job done without thinking, oh, my bicep is weak. How am I going to lift this jar up? So if your bicep is weak, in fact, you will make a compensation, maybe even with your back muscles, to make that happen. And you don't even have to think about that. As I said, your body does that for you. But that's one of the reasons why habitual patterns take place and that you can actually do some damage. And so, for instance, if you are constantly unmindful of a compensation, there will be an accompanying weakness. So something's already weak, right? Which is why your body's compensating. And so again and again and again, you're making certain movements and that weak muscle is not being used. So it doesn't take much thinking to realize that what will happen is that muscle continues to get weaker and weaker and the other structures are overused. And all of this to let you know that that's the reason for our continued mindfulness and awareness as we practice yoga. It's also the reason sometimes I like to have you isolate certain muscles and muscle groups just so you can feel what it's like. And there are to have sort of notoriously weak muscles or inactive muscles be made to work. And a notoriously weak muscle in people is, you've heard me say, this is around the mid-back, something called the anterior serratus right here. And the muscles around the shoulder blades, the rotator cuff muscles, but also the very deep core muscle called the transverse abdominis. You don't need to remember the names. It's helpful to remember the parts of the body, though, that tend to have this weakness. So all of this preamble was to let you know that we are going to focus on these areas that tend to be weak in us. We will have a full body experience, but we will go through some of these areas of weakness. And we'll warm the body up first, and so we'll tend towards a couple of back bends. I'll give you a really good full body experience today. Okay, so let's go ahead and come into a comfortable seated posture now of your choice. And take those just few moments you need to really drop your awareness right into your body. Everything that's happening outside your door, outside the space, outside your mat, we're just going to let it go for right now. It'll be there when you come back. So let's begin to really start focusing on our breathing. Once you get your alignment, once you get your comfort set up, start to think about your breathing. Just notice that you're breathing. And as you're ready, you're starting to lengthen and soften the breath. Remember that sort of goal is at least a 6 count inhale and exhale. And once you achieve that, you also want to feel the expansion in your rib cage and in the body when you inhale. And you want to feel the necessary constriction, compression for you to complete the exhale. So just start to feel this process as you breathe really nice and slowly for the next 3 breaths. You're feeling the lengthening, softening of the breath, but you're also feeling the 3-dimensional quality of your breathing. So continuing to breathe just like this. We're going to, of course, try to breathe like this throughout our practice. So I want you just to slip your eyes open. And with that, let your hands, arms slide to the sides of the body. Turn your palms outward. Feel that expansion in the upper chest. And then as you inhale, you're reaching the arms up. Holding that for just another breath. So the next time you inhale, you can, with real focus, press into the sits bones on the floor and upward even more with your finger points. And feel that lovely length in the torso. Neck is soft and relaxed, but it's also long. So a little dipping in your chin, just a little bit, so you feel the back of the neck long. As you exhale next, just release those arms, that big wide semicircle coming all the way down to the sides. There, and when you feel your fingertips to the floor, just put your hands to the heart. Namaste. And from this position, as long as you're comfortable, we're just going to briefly put our hands, fingertips right to our shoulders. Just want you to draw really big circles with the elbows. Let the actual movement initiate from your shoulder joint. Nice big circles. And what I want you to try to feel it, if you can, is right underneath and to the side of your shoulder blade. Just make sure that's included in your movement, that you are aware of that. Maybe 5 big circles, and then let's reverse the direction of the circle. Very good. And then you can release, bring your arms up again, and let's just do that little motion I call apple picking, where you're reaching up more with one side and then, of course, the other side. And let's just go ahead and keep our breath flowing. Don't worry about when you're breathing in, when you're breathing out. Just breathe nice, long, slow breaths, and it will all happen several times to either side. And just notice if there's any more restriction in one side than the other. And sometimes all it takes is your awareness to sort of take care of these kind of asymmetries in the body. Very nice. And then let's go ahead, bring our arms down, and let's come on to our backs briefly for a really focused little practice here to get ready for movement. So coming down all the way to the floor. When you first get there, just have your stretch. Really good to do that, especially when you've been seated for a few minutes like we have. You want to stretch those legs out. You want to bring the arms over your head. Just have a nice freeing stretch. Take a few seconds for this. Very good. And then bring the arms down. Bring the soles of the feet to the floor. And of course, in this class, you probably already know about the 3-part sort of abdominal work. But I want to go just a little bit further with this, because the very deep muscle that I mentioned in the beginning, the very deep core muscle, is often just inactive when it should be activated. So, as you know how to do, I'm going to move my arms so you can see, but you don't have to do that. Your arms are to the sides of the body. When you inhale, of course, you're just relaxing, and maybe even the tummy is just inflating. At least the chest is inflating. But when you exhale, that's when the abdominal core begins to engage. So the tummy button is coming in. You're imagining that these hip points are coming slightly closer together. And then you're drawing the pubic bone in and up. And this little 3 parts actually happens once you learn it all at once. But it's good to learn it in 3 parts so you really have this committed to muscle memory. And so when you inhale, you're releasing. So the engagement is tummy button comes closer in towards the spine. Hip points come closer together, and your pubic bone draws in and up. So from here, what I want you to do is just put your hands, the heel of your hand, right on your hip points, and then like a V shape, you're just letting the hands come down on the lower abdomen, and fingers are sort of crossing over at the pubic bone. And I just want you to start to feel what's happening. As you exhale next, the navel comes closer in towards the spine. You feel a very slight trying to bring the hip points closer together. And this time when you move your pubic bone in and up, are you feeling any kind of firming? And it's very subtle, but do you feel a little firming under your hands? And if you don't, the next time we exhale, I want you to put a little more into your pubic bone movement. So exhaling, navel comes closer to the spine, hip points attempt to come closer together. And the pubic bone, what you're trying to do is feel it as if it's reaching the pubic bone for the tailbone internally behind it and across from it, if you can imagine that. And you can also correspondingly feel like the tailbone is sort of trying to move towards the pubic bone, and that will make your low back just slightly go more towards the floor. And then you should feel just a little firming in the lower abdomen, very deep, and that's what you're looking for. So let's just do this a couple more times, and you can practice this on your own later. So as you're inhaling, tummy's releasing and just softening maybe. It may inflate, it may just soften. As you exhale, you're feeling the navel come closer to the spine, hip points attempt to come closer together, and then your pubic bone starts to point towards your own tailbone internally. And maybe the tailbone also points towards your pubic bone. Just feel that little firming. Just try it another time. Very subtle, I know, but really also very important. So just on your own breath, you know what to do. It's on the exhale that you start to engage. That little 3-level engagement. The third step is your pubic bone is trying to point towards your tailbone. Tailbone tries to point a little more towards your pubic bone. And this is all, of course, internally. And then inhale, release. Very good. And then from here, just nice and easy, you're bringing your right thigh in towards the chest. You're stretching out in the left leg. You know how to do this. It's very familiar. All I want you to do is draw the right thigh inward towards the chest. Left leg, if you can manage, it's extended out. And just hold for a breath or two here. Feeling the effects maybe in the left side of your lumbar spine, wherever you're feeling it. And we're going to take our time and just switch sides. So the left thigh comes in towards the chest. The right leg is extended. Nice, long, slow breaths here. So you're not rushing, but you're really paying attention to everything you're feeling. You might even be feeling it in the top of that extended thigh if the leg is tight at all. Very good. And then let's release. That both soles of the feet are towards the floor or on the floor. Little separation here in the soles of the feet, and then cross the right ankle over the left thigh. And from here, begin to lift the left sole of the foot off the floor. You'll need that little abdominal core engagement. As you lift, the unit of both legs comes closer in towards the body. And then reach through and interlock your hands just behind the left thigh. Relax your shoulders, relax your head. And so you want to feel the sensation as purely as you can in the lower body. So you're trying to really relax the head and the shoulders as you pull just a little bit with your bicep strength. You're pulling and encouraging the unit of both legs closer in. Just assess where you're feeling it. So it almost certainly is somewhere around that right hip joint, around your buttock on the right side, somewhere around those the right gluteal muscles. And try to come right to the edge and just let your breath be long and slow. And keep feeling when you exhale that little abdominal core engagement that we've just practiced. The more you practice it, the more it will just become a muscle memory for you. And it will become a good habitual pattern. And then let's release this so your core is still engaged. You're exhaling, you let go in the fingers and the interlocked hands, and just set the left sole of the foot back on the floor. Uncross, right sole of the foot comes to the floor, and then let's recross. This time left ankle over the right knee. And keep breathing, keep moving. The right sole of the foot is rising up. And then you can reach through and interlock your hands behind the right thigh. And just feel the release here as much as you can before you start to pull. Let this left side of the hip, left gluteal muscle, left hip joint, let it release. And then maybe you can just pull just a little bit, gentle little tug, let it come closer in. And of course you're paying attention to everything you're feeling and just allowing the breath to stay long and slow. And as you begin to release, remember it's on an exhale, your core is engaged, and then you can just set the right sole of the foot on the floor. Uncross, lovely. Bring both thighs in towards the chest. Little separation of the thighs, and you can just rest your wrist and palms of the hands on the knees and draw the thighs a little closer in, the knees a little closer in. Flex your feet. Feel the broadening in the low back. And then you might want to widen out into a nice wide V and just give a little rock side to side. And then come to stillness here. Just let yourself release and bring the thighs closer in together. We're all going to come up to a seated posture now. And so you can rock and roll on your spine if you'd like. Or you can always just roll over to the side and come up nice and easy. We're all going to end up in a seated posture. And once we're up to seated, let's go ahead and come into the position. You can stretch your legs out first. But what I'd like is for you to bring the left leg a little away from center and draw the right heel right close into your own groin. Reseat yourself. Make sure this is comfortable for both your knee. You can always remember you can pad this knee just a little bit if you have a blanket or a brick if it doesn't feel very good. So just make sure you're comfortable in whatever position that you, or whether you choose to use a bolster or not. Bringing the hands to the hips here. Try to get nice and tall through your torso. And then placing the right hand right out beside the right thigh and hip. We're going to breathe that left arm up and over. And so what you're not trying to see how far you can get the arm over. What you're trying to see is that can you keep the left sits bone anchored to the floor. So you may not be able to go way over, even if you could, if you let the sits bone elevate. So remember, the important thing is anchoring down in that sits bone. You want to be able to have a focal point where you can stretch this left side body a little bit. So as you breathe into this and feel the pure side bend, we're going to shift it just a little bit. And you're going to start reaching diagonally forward a little bit and turning your heart down just a tiny bit. And see if you can feel that. Where I want you to feel it is right in the left side of your lumbar spine and around that side body a little bit. So start feeling that. And then nice and easy, we're going to shift and come back to center, but then turn our heart just a little bit forward and upward towards the ceiling, just a little bit. And the same feeling, not the same feeling, the same location. I want you to feel it in that left lumbar spine area. So can you just do this just a couple of breaths, going forward a little bit, reaching diagonally forward, and then coming back nice and slowly, opening up just a little bit so that you can feel a slightly different sensation in that same area. Very good. And then the next time you're at center, let's go ahead and rise back up again. A little pressure into that right hand. Put the left hand to the floor and then raise the right arm. A similar sort of thing here. It'll feel a little different on this side, but you still want both sits bones to be anchored down. So just try this again. Pure side bend to start, and then just a little bit, you're starting to reach your heart space more diagonally across. And just feel whatever you're feeling, back to the side bend, and then the heart space goes back just a little bit. Just feel that little sweeping, tiny sweeping motion. So you're really paying attention, because you do need to reach just a little bit to find the edge. You're really, it's internal work here. So it doesn't look like you're doing much, but I'm hoping that you feel it now in the right lumbar spine area. And then coming back to the center position, press up a little bit, come on back, and just have a couple little movements where it's flowing, going from one side to the other. And just make sure all that area is really warmed up and lubricated. Excellent. Now you know where we're going. We're going to switch sides. And just notice if one side feels more comfortable than the other. Let's begin. First, get tall. Left hand comes to the outside of that left hip, wherever you can really have a nice anchoring point. The right arm goes up and over. There we are again. So we're being really thorough with this. First, find the side bend, and then that tiny little movement diagonally. Heart space lifts, comes back through center, and then it goes back just a little bit. And of course, that left hand is the constant sort of anchoring for yourself. So if you are doing this movement and you actually don't feel much happening, I want you to slow it down. And when you get to each end point, I want you to reach a little bit with the arm. And where you're trying to find it is right in the lumbar spine in the right side. And then when you're coming back to center, remember you can use your left hand and arm strength to help. You're coming back up. Right hand comes to the floor, left arm comes up, and let's try it on this side now. You're finding the side bend first. Breath is just going long and slow. And that tiny, tiny little movement diagonally. And the heart lifts. And the heart points down slightly, and the arm reaches as it can, just to find the sensation low down in that lumbar spine on the left side body now. Excellent. And then when you come back to center the next time, little push through that right arm. Come on back up. Use your hands as leverage. Stretch the legs out. Lift up a little bit on your seat. And let's come on to tabletop position from here. So, finding the tabletop position, little rock front to back. Set it up as you know how to do. Let's just look for a moment for those little muscles between our shoulder blades. So from this tabletop position, I want you to just start to sag, let the torso sag down. You're pressing into the hands. The elbows are not bending, but you're just letting the torso sort of sag down. Okay? And then pressing into the hands, push the floor away, and just feel around your shoulder blades as you bring the body, the back body back in the straight line again. So sometimes it takes a couple times. Go ahead and sag. And then as you press into the hands, realign yourself into the neutral tabletop. Feeling those muscles in the mid-back, around the shoulder blades, having to engage a little bit to make that happen. And if you'd like, do that one more time. Just make sure the brain registers this. As you press into the hands, you're lining up back into the tabletop position. And what muscles back there are having to work a little bit. And let's just do a few cat-cows as you're ready on the inhale, lifting the heart, lifting the tailbone. Start nice and small if you'd like. Just go back and forth on your own breathing. And then after a breath or two, you can take it maybe a little further if it feels okay for you to do that. Very good. And then coming to stillness, put your hands maybe just a couple of inches further ahead. Maybe if depends on how close you are. I want you to come in. We're going to come into an extended child's pose, so you may have to walk your knees back a little bit, leaving the hands nice and anchored to the mat. I want you to bring your hips back and just play with this a little bit, finding the posture where you can be here and really feel lengthening in the arms, but also in the spine here. So release into this as much as you can. Let go. Nice full breathing. We're going to begin on the breath now. We're going to take this from extended child's pose all the way to upward facing dog. So I want you to immediately feel the palms on the floor and then take a little more weight, just very subtly, into the inner hands. So that as you inhale, you're looking up slightly and you're pulling the floor towards you, and the focus point is the inner hands. So as you bring the torso through your arms, depends on your strength. You may have to come up a little higher if you just don't feel strong enough. But the idea is to try to bring the torso just as low as you can. You'll have to use the arm strength. Bringing the hips forward all the way into an upward facing dog. Now when you get here, I want you to really press into those inner hands and you'll feel the arm muscles, of course, but I want you to try to feel the upper back, mid-back, as you broaden the collarbones and look up. You almost certainly will have to press into the inner hands to make that happen. And then when you exhale, you're really drawing in on the abdominal core to safely come all the way back. So there's lots of area to cover, coming all the way back with hips towards the heels. Relax your head and neck completely. The longer and slower your breaths are, the more time you have for the movement. So just like that, we're inhaling all the way into upward facing dog, pressing into the inner hands so we can let our mid-back muscles work a little bit as you open your chest. As you exhale, abdominal core work as you draw. Lead the way with the core as you draw back into your extended child's pose. So make sure you're feeling all the components as you inhale and exhale. And one final time now. As you're ready, one more time. As you're coming into the upward facing dog, just make sure your elbows are pointing straight down towards the floor. They're not splaying out. Make sure you feel strength in the inner hands as you come into your upward facing dog. Broaden those collarbones. And on the exhale, you've got real core engagement. Now, the abdominal core is drawing in and back as you come into your extended child's pose. So from this extended child's pose, just bend your elbows and put one fist on top of the other. Rest your forehead for just a moment. Very good. Excellent. Nice, long, slow breaths. And just feel the breath moving in the body so fully and completely. And then we're going to make a little move. Hands come back, forearms come back to the floor. You come back to a tabletop position. And then you're putting your hands one hand length further ahead, flexing the toes under, pressing right into your inner hands as you push the floor away, relaxing the head and neck, coming into your downward facing dog. So go ahead and be nice and easy with yourself. This is probably your first downward facing dog of the day. Maybe a little pedaling on the spot. Coming onto the tippy toes, whatever feels really good. So just take a few moments here and really make this your own. Very good. And then place your knees to the floor. We're just going to have a very, very brief instruction now of lowering ourselves to the floor. And of course, we do this all the time. But I want you to know that you have a choice and you might want to explore those choices just a little bit. So, often what I do, I'll take you through a half chaturanga from downward facing dog. And you can try this if you'd like, right along with me, or you can just watch and then try it, okay? So from your downward facing dog, we're all inhaling, coming into the plank pose. So remember, as you come into the plank pose, immediately what's happening, it's like you're trying to hold on to a big ball between your arms. So isometrically, they are contracted. So with pressing into the inner hands, it will feel as though maybe the elbow creases are turning forward. So you really want that engagement in your arms. It has to happen for you to really be safe in the shoulder joint. So as you're coming forward, the arms are doing some work. The core is doing some work. As you come into your plank pose, you can rock a little bit front to back. Make sure your wrists are okay. And then from here, if you want to come into the half chaturanga, you're going to push forward a little bit with the toes. So you push into the big toe mounds, come forward just a little bit. And then as you begin to lower down, the elbows bend. And whenever you need to, you can, of course, just touch knees to the floor here. So it's a reverse push-up, very, very tough. But what you don't want is to collapse your chest. So as you're coming forward, you want your chest to lift. And all you have to do is touch your knees to the floor when you have to, whenever you have to. So there's the half chaturanga. And the other lowering down position is called inchworm. And inchworm is very good for combating bingo wings, although that's not exactly why I practice yoga, but hey, what the heck, you might as well get some physical benefits too, right? So from downward facing dog, you would come into plank pose, just as before. And here's the difference. You touch your knees immediately. And the strength in the arms is just like before, like you're holding a big beach ball. Here's the difference. You're actually trying to touch the chest to the floor first. Once you get down there, there's the namesake inchworm, and it's really easy from there to come right into a cobra pose. So that's the two main kind of more upscale ways to come down. You can always, always, always just come down. Knees, tummy, chest. And even if you want to just lower all at once, if you just, what you don't want to do is collapse onto the floor, of course. Okay, very good. I think we've got it. Let's all, if you've probably tried it along with me, let's try it again all together now. So from your tabletop position, put your hands one hand length further ahead. Flex your toes under, relax your head and neck so you're not tempted to use your neck muscles. You're pushing the floor away, coming into your downward facing dog. And just enjoy that for a breath or two. And then coming into your plank pose. And from the plank pose, just make your choice. How would you like to come down? Just come down however you'd like, onto the floor, onto your tummies. And once you're there, you're going to bring your finger points right back, as far back as you can, possibly all the way to the chest. Elbows are pointing straight up behind you. Legs are nice and long. Let's just have a few really sweet and easy cobra poses. What you don't want to do, you want to try not to use your low back. We're going to try to use our mid backs, okay? So you'll need to anchor your pubic bone a little to the floor and let the tailbone point between your heels, so that as you inhale next, all of that's happening. You're nice and anchored in the lower body, and you make sure those shoulder bones are lifted away from the floor. Let your back muscles do some work. If you're pressing into the hands, that's not going to happen. Your arms will do the work. So all you're doing, the fingers, they're light on the floor, and you might just traction back a little bit with the elbows and the hands. There you go. And just do this a few times. As you exhale, you're releasing. And as you inhale, again, just taking it right with your awareness into your mid-back. Shoulder blades try to come closer together and edge down the back just a little bit. And after you've done that 3 or 4 times, just have a little pause. Nice long, slow breaths here. And we'll try locust pose, Shalabhasana as it's called, but just a slightly different version. So from here, foreheads are on the floor and your fingers are towards your temples. It might be easier if I face this direction just so you can see. Sorry. Fingertips to the floor. And make sure the lower body is anchored to the floor. And what we're going to do, we have to just raise up just a little bit, an inch or so, our foreheads from the floor. So you're already engaging just a little bit. And then the sequence, the movement is as you inhale, you're raising the arms, raising the chest, raising the head, and the movement, your elbows sweep back and towards each other behind you. And then you're releasing about an inch from the floor, fingertips right back towards your temples. Okay? So if you have that, just do this a few times. It's really difficult work. It's internal work. Let's just see how you're doing with it. So as you inhale, you're flailing open or flaring open the chest, the arms, the elbows. Look forward slightly. And then releasing out of the pose. And so as you come into this pose, what you're trying to do is really feel your shoulder blades doing some work. The muscles have to move. So of course the elbows are coming back and towards each other. The shoulder blades, all those muscles attached, are doing lots of work. So it's not coming from your low back, it's coming from your mid back. And when you've had enough, let's go ahead and rest on the floor. Bring your arms to the sides of the body. That might feel really good to do that. And again, take this or leave it. If it feels good, then let's do it. Bring with the arms alongside the torso, bring the shoulder bones away from the floor and maybe interlock lightly behind your back. Just do some shoulder rolls here. Just a few, and then let's relax. And from here, we'll all need a little pose of a child. So pressing the hands into the floor. And after that little back bending, it's really nice to just put double fists on the floor. Rest your forehead on your own double fists. And just have a couple breaths and really start to feel the effects in your low back. So you're letting go there. You're releasing tension in your low back in this pose of a child. You're relaxing any tension in your neck. And after you're there for 2 or 3 breaths, and only if it feels good, will you want to bring your forehead maybe down a little lower towards the floor, either on double hands or all the way forehead to the floor. And that's your choice. And you're really taking long, slow breaths here and feeling the effects all the way into your lumbar spine as you breathe in fully. And you feel that slight compression as you exhale just as fully. And so we're going to slowly start to come out now. So putting fingertips to the floor. Slowly roll your head and torso up, a little weight into the arms. Once you get where your torso is a little more vertical, you come forward on your knees, tuck those toes under, coming right into a squatting position. And you can pause here for just a moment. If it's not hard on your knees, it might be really nice to just linger for a moment in the squatting position. Maybe a little more weight on one leg, one foot, and then the other. Let's just take our time. And from here, we're all going to push up into a standing position using the strength of our legs. Nice and easy. We're all coming to standing. So as you come to standing, let's go ahead and find Tadasana, our mountain pose now. Right at the top of the mat. Any little movement you need, of course you know you can do that. But just start making your way into a really solid Tadasana. And placing your hands right to your heart. Lower your eyes. And just feel a nice heaviness in your heels so you can feel some spaciousness in your low back as the tailbone points down. You're breathing really long and slow. And the next time you inhale, really feel that breastbone pressing into your thumbs and just a slight looking forward, maybe up just a little bit. As you exhale, little bend in the bending chin towards the chest. Lovely. And then as you inhale, you're looking up and the hands come right off the heart, right up over your head, and you're reaching, reaching, reaching. And as you exhale, you're diving forward, hands to the floor. As you inhale, you're coming up halfway. If you need to reverse those hands all the way up to your thighs to help that happen, then let's do that. And then as you exhale, you can slide the hands down the legs, fingers back towards your feet. And be here for just a breath or two, trying to release a little bit into your forward bend. So a little bend in the knees if you need to, and relax your head and neck over your legs. You relax your upper body over your legs. Very good. And after just a couple breaths like this, you'll poise your finger points to the floor. Heart rises just a little bit as you inhale.
And then as you exhale, you're going to step the right leg back and the left leg comes back to meet the right. And there you are again into your plank pose. Your arms are really strong and they're isometrically coming towards each other. As you exhale, you can come down to the floor, any version you'd like. And then just have a lovely little sweet cobra, nice and easy. Shoulder blades, shoulders away from the ears, neck is long. Just lift your heart a little bit. And exhale right back to the floor with your forehead. Pressing back. Very good. And we're all going to end up in downward facing dog. So easy. We're making this on ourselves. And then from the downward facing dog, we're going to walk our feet closer to our hands. Take a little walk right back up into the forward bend and release. And then to come up, a little more weight into the heels, and you can sweep up and come on right back into the starting position. Nice, long, slow breaths. And when you're doing these movements all through this little sequence, we're just going to breathe nice and easy, and you're going to let the breath have priority. You get to stop anytime you want and pause if you'd like, or you can just keep going, whatever feels right. Nice and easy. Exhale, let the hands come to the sides of the body, and then rise them up as you inhale. As you exhale, a little bend in the knees, you're coming right into a forward bend. Inhaling, raising the heart. Exhaling, releasing the tummy towards the thighs. Fingers, toes are in line. Step back with the right leg. Step back with the left. Here we are again in a plank pose. This time as you exhale, gonna lead with the core. As you exhaling, tummy button comes in and you push right back into a downward facing dog. Let the neck be long and relaxed. As you inhale, you're going to reach the right leg back into a three-legged dog. As you exhale, you're going to reach under and through. Step forward as much as you can. Remember, you can always just place the foot there. From here, we're in a high lunge, but we are going to lift into a warrior one. So you might want to take just a moment, find your strength, find your alignment, so you can very safely rise up into your warrior one. Even if you really take a lot of time with it, it's fine. Once you find your pose, inhale the arms up. There you are in your warrior one. Next inhale, lift your heart a little more. And as you exhale, can we all come into warrior two? So it's a little segue, a little morphing. You're opening and out to the left. Remember to keep an eye on that front knee. It wants to stay tracking right over the second or third toes. So you can move around and make this warrior two your own pose and just feel your own stability here. Next inhale, we're going to come into proud warrior. So the right fingertips, front fingertips turn up. As you inhale next, you're raising the right arm, lowering the left. You can always bend the back arm, left arm, and tuck the back of that hand right into the small of your back. And inhale, open up as much as you can in that front right side body. And slowly, you're going to exhale back into warrior two. And from the warrior two again, we're just gradually coming back, trying to come back into the warrior one. And then with control, we're trying to lower into the high lunge. So your fingertips are going to slowly come to the floor. Once you're there and everything's okay, your pelvis is squared, we're going to inhale into a twist, raising the right arm up and over the head, making sure this knee doesn't splay out because it wants to, but you're not going to let it. You're going to come into that nice twist, and you're going to exhale, release the hand, arm right down. And from here on your next exhale, we're going to go back into a downward facing dog. Just allow the head and neck to really release and relax here. So that on your next inhale, you're going to raise up with the left leg into a tripod dog. And you're going to exhale, sweep that leg under the body. Situate yourself into the high lunge so that you know you can very safely rise up into a warrior one. So just take your time as you need to. Make sure you've got your balance and just feel your own stability here. Raising the heart up on your next inhale. And then as you exhale, you're up on the ball of that back foot and pivoting so you can come into a warrior two. And what you want, of course, just a little back and forth with the weight in the front and the back to find your sweet spot here. And just be in this warrior two for a couple of breaths once you find it. The next movement is our proud warrior. So turning the front palms upward as you inhale, raising up with that front arm, back arm might, maybe you can bend the elbow. And of course, you can always just set it on the back leg, whatever feels best right now. And next inhale, really try to come into it. This time the left side, front side body is really reaching and arcing and exhaling back into the warrior two. And just with your own breath, your own control, we're coming back, pivoting the foot so that we can come back first to warrior one, and then you're reaching for the floor with control into your lunge. Make sure the hips are back squared before you inhale and come into your twist. Very good, and release as you exhale. Next exhale, downward facing dog. And then let's go ahead and have a little walk to the top of your mats. Bending the knees when you get there and reaching up. Hands to the heart. Very good. And so coming right here to the tops of your mat, I'm going to face so you can see me. Hands to the heart here. Nice, long, slow breaths into Tadasana. And then feel your way. Shift a little more into the left leg. And every step of the way, you're assessing, how are you? How am I? And with the weight in the left leg, you begin to raise the right knee, just like it's on a little marionette string. If all is well, you're going to reach all the way up into a one-legged extended Tadasana. Just check yourself. We're going to try to come into a warrior three now. So as you exhale, and then inhaling into the warrior three. Now, if you can stay in this pose, you are trying to draw in. Every time you exhale, ribs draw in. Very good. If you're wiggling in and out of it, it's absolutely fine. When you come out, try to come out with control. Easier said than done if you need to touch your foot to the floor and then come back. We're going to try to come back right back into that one-legged Tadasana, hands to the heart. And then from here, can you just cross the right ankle over the left thigh? And here we are in a figure four. I invite you just to hang out here for a breath or two. If you want to come into a little forward bending, you can. It's a nice test for your balance, a nice exploring of your balance. If you come out of it, remember, you want to gently go back in. Most normal thing in the world is to come in and out of balance poses like this. And then can we bring the leg back? And one more time, can you take it into warrior three? I know I'm asking a lot, reaching up into one-legged Tadasana.
briefly coming back into your warrior three. And then we can release. Coming back first to Tadasana, one-legged Tadasana, and then Tadasana. Really good. You've done well. Nice, long, slow breaths. So now you know what's happening on the other leg. As and when you're ready, you can take a few breaths here. But when you're ready, we're going to transfer weight over to the right leg. Keep your breath flowing. Remember, the breath takes priority. So if ever you feel like you're going to, you either have to hold your breath or fall out of the pose, go ahead and come out of the pose and keep breathing. Eventually, of course, you're in, raising the left knee. As you're ready, you're extending up into one-legged Tadasana. From the one-legged Tadasana, we're going to try to come into warrior three. Maybe in one fell swoop you can do that. If you can hold it, that's fantastic. Don't worry if you can't. If you keep falling out of it, just keep trying to come back into it. That's all you have to do. Breathing, drawing the ribs in if you're able to hold it. And then when you are ready to come out, we're going to try to take it back to the starting position. Takes a lot of control. And then eventually, of course, you'll be in the figure four shape on the other side. Left ankle crossed over the right thigh. Now remember, always let the breath have its way. So allow the breath to flow as you need to. So come out of the pose for a second if you need to, reestablish. So maybe you've taken a forward bend in your figure four, maybe you haven't. Regardless, we're going to try to take it back to warrior three. And I'm struggling. It's hard to talk in warrior three, or in any balanced pose rather. So you're just reaching up into the one-legged Tadasana and then exhaling into your warrior three, if in fact you're able to do that. And you will slowly try to bring it right back to the one-legged Tadasana before you release. Very good, lovely challenge for your balance there. So this was a very short standing sequence, and now we will come back to the floor for some of our final movements. And back to the floor, we'll just have a really brief little stretch in our shoulders here. So I invite you to either come to a kneeling position with a nice little bolster underneath your hips, or you can come into a position where you're crossing upper knee, thigh over. It's like a little arrow, both knees pointing forward. If it's not comfortable for you, please just choose a kneeling position. So for those of you who have chosen to sit in the position with one leg's knee, bent knee stacked over the other, we're just going to come into an eagle arms now. So remember, it doesn't matter if you're kneeling, but if you do have the knees crossed like that, whichever knee is the upper knee, you want the opposite arm to be the upper arm. So bring your arms out, turn the palms up, and really have an expansive feeling, not only in your chest, but from fingertip to fingertip. And then as you exhale, we're going to reach in. Remember, you want the opposite arm on top. For those of you who have your knees stacked, give yourself a hug and slowly inhale back those forearms into each other. And just explore here. It's more about the stretch than it is about Galandasana arm or eagle arms. You can, of course, raise the elbows so that they're to the level of the shoulder and you'll feel a stretch. But even more important, what I'd like you to do is just move a little bit and allow yourself, your own body, to find a stretch that feels good. It should feel good not only in the shoulders, but even in your upper back. So take just a moment and just enjoy just a few free-flowing movements here. I'm making little figure eights with my crossed forearms. I'm doing lots of things actually. Very good. And then before we exit this pose, one more time, if you'll just bring those interlocked forearms right up, elbows even with the shoulders before you release. Now, if you're kneeling, it doesn't matter. The legs can stay as they are. If you're not, and if you're crossing, you've got to switch opposite. You want the opposite leg, of course, at the top. So just find that position. Breathe the arms out. And as you exhale, remember the opposite elbow wants to be on top. Just give yourself a big hug. Bringing the forearms back together again. Inhaling, raising the elbows to shoulder height. Relaxing the neck, so you want the back of the neck long. Maybe just dip the chin forward just a little bit. And then go into a little bit of a free flow here. So it's nice just to explore any little stretch that feels like it's helpful. And then after you've done that for half a minute or so, maybe even a minute if you want that long, before we exit, you want to lift those elbows to shoulder height one more time. And then when you feel complete, we're going to exhale, release the arms. And then you're going to release your legs. And we're all going to come to a reclining position now. So coming right down to the floor. And once you're there, again, have that full body stretch. Nice, long, slow breaths here. It's really important to let that breath flow. And so easy, we're just going to bring one thigh or knee towards the other, towards the chest, and stretch out the left leg. Or the other leg. One's bent, one's extended, and just have a couple breaths. Relax any tension in your shoulders and neck. And then we're going to just simply switch sides. And you're, of course, keeping your breath flowing, but you're also noticing the sensations, just like you did in the beginning. And then you're going to release and put both soles of the feet on the floor and just walk your ankles, feet really close together and feel the knees close together, the thighs close together, and bring your arms out to shoulder height. Rearrange your shoulder blades if you'd like so they're right underneath you. And we're just going to do a simple twist from this position so it accesses a slightly different part of the spine. So the feet stay on the floor and you're going to bring the knees over to the left, but you're going to allow them to stay stacked, ankles stacked. The whole package from knee to ankle is just neatly stacked. Just bring it over as far as you can or feels good.
what I want you to do is use those elongated, stretched out arms to counterbalance the pose. So the right shoulder blade is staying anchored to the floor. And notice right around that right side body, that right lumbar spine, any sensation you're feeling. And on your next breath, can you encourage the lower right ribs and the lower part of your lumbar spine on the right just to edge down a little bit? And that's actually down towards the floor, but also down in the direction of your feet. So just feel that subtle little movement internally. And again, you're not launching into it, you're just maybe a centimeter moving. And notice what that feels like. You can come in and out, so you can inhale and point that area, the lower right ribs towards the floor and towards the feet, and you can release. Very good. And after you've done that just a few times, we're going to come out of this now. So brace into your elbows, and on an exhale, just raise the legs back up again. And once you're at center, maybe just a little swaying side to side. Feels a little bit like you're resetting the spine. And then let's take it over to the other side. Remember, as you go over on an exhale, the knees are, and the whole of the lower leg is, the whole of the leg is stacked. And so you're just taking it over as far as you can comfortably. And you're using the reach of the arms to help counterbalance the twist. So you want to give that just a couple of breaths now to really settle. And once you feel like you've arrived, then turn your focus to the left lower lumbar area and your left lower ribs. And just very gently, you're just pointing a little bit downward in that part of the body as you inhale. Left lower ribs try to come a little bit more to the floor, but also down towards your feet, just a little bit. And you can release and reestablish each and every breath if you'd like. That tiny little internal movement. Lovely. And then as you're ready to come out, remember you want a little weight into your elbows. And you're just on an exhale, we're going to rise back out with the legs. Separate your feet just a little bit here. Just sway the knees side to side. Let your breath flow, and when you feel complete with that, you might want to just draw both knees into the chest and keep a little separation between the groins and the thighs. Maybe sway side to side. This is really meant for just for you to cool down completely and come into the final relaxation really comfortably. So I invite you to try to find any little stretch or movement for yourself that might feel good. And as you feel complete, we're going to just stretch out into our Shavasana. So as you're laying your body into this final relaxation, make sure you allow the surrender, the feeling of surrender and heaviness. And just feel really safe with the floor taking the full brunt of your weight. Just allow everything to surrender.
And so once you feel like that's happening, that you're really letting go, surrendering the weight to the floor, just turn your focus then again to your breathing. And just for another 3 breaths, maybe, can you focus on inhales going right into your abdomen. So when you inhale, the abdomen inflates. And when you exhale, it deflates. Just a couple more very mindful breaths like this. As you inhale, tummy inflates. And as you exhale, you feel the tummy deflating. And again, inhaling when you, or rather inflating when you inhale the tummy. Deflating when you exhale. And then let go of any thought for your breath. Just let it go, not trying to control it at all. Let it do whatever it would like to do. And if you would like to stay in your Shavasana for a while, I suggest you just allow the heaviness, of course, but what you want to do is perhaps just watch your breathing for a few breaths. That will take you a little deeper in. And this chime is for those of you who are ready to close out. In which case you'll come to seated. Just let yourself come back gradually for those of you who are coming back. And placing hands to the heart. Namaste. Thank you.